and heroes. Gonna tell you about pros and heroes. Gonna tell you about
comic books, costumes,
Facts, boots.
and other stuff.
In this week's issue, Silver Age Silliness and Deadpool.
Welcome into Bros, Foes, and Heroes. I'm Zach, joined as always by the, I was gonna say miscreant one, but I don't necessarily know if
That's weird. I don't know about miscreant. But,
it's Mike.
Misfit. There we go. I'll take that.
Yeah, that works for sure. The Misfit one. No, it's Mike. I'm Zach. And welcome into Bros, Foes, and Heroes. A little bit of an audible on today's show. I know last week, I think I teased. If not, then I did in my head.
Yeah.
And I told Mike about it. There's a Joe Kelly, I think it's Deadpool 11 from back in 1997 of his run that he did. I thought that I would time Deadpool story with the Deadpool Wolverine movie coming out.
Yeah, there you go.
On the 26th, because this will come out the Monday before, so the movie should be out this Friday.
I am so damn excited.
I am too. I saw another teaser trailer, and
Look in my eyes. You can see the excitement in my eyes.
I can.
And since this is video for the first time,
That's the thing.
audience-
Audio-wise, you've heard us talk about video, but hopefully
the audience can see the excitement in my eyes.
Yeah, I think I see it too.
There it is.
Yeah. It's funny. Your excitement looks like other faces you make.
Well,
too.
it looks like maybe a bathroom face.
Yeah.
It looks like maybe a
Contemplation.
contemplation, condemnation. Yeah, all of those things.
All of the donations.
Crustaceans. I don't know.
But I'm excited for it. I like the idea or the thought of it's kind of Deadpool killing, hopefully, the Fox universe.
Yeah, man.
Maybe, or the Fox Marvel universe.
From all I've heard, that's
I don't know.
exactly
Whatever it
what
is,
that is. Yeah.
I'm excited for it. If it doesn't live up to expectations, it's fiction. So, I'm just going in with, I'm looking to have a good time. I think that's the best way you can do.
I just want to get one of those popcorn buckets.
You got one of the Dune ones, though, too, didn't you?
Oh, yeah. Well, I had one. Yeah.
Anyway, what we were going to do today, as I said, was talk about Deadpool number 11. That was a 64-page annual that is a story of where, thanks to the Great Lake Avengers and the story that's going on, Deadpool and Blind Al get sent back in time.
Did you say Great Lake Avengers?
Yeah, the Great Lake Avengers.
So they were just up in the Michigan area?
Yeah, I think Milwaukee might be their base of location.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is Mr. Immortal. I mean, membership has changed. This is going to sound super nerdy. But
yeah, if they're listening to this or watching this, they're not expecting anything nerdy.
So I know my knowledge is not super deep. I just know about it from reading because I like to know what I'm reading if there's characters I don't know before. Things of that, but the Great Lake Avengers,
you're good on background and stuff. You love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I do. It's in anything. I've always loved to research things. I know it's weird, but that's me. And so I think at least the original lineup was Mr. Immortal was the leader, who is immortal. And then
Are there any other powers, or is that it?
That's I know their main powers. If there's other things,
and you're saying immortal, not immoral.
Yeah, no, not immoral.
Okay. All right.
Immortal.
That would be a different character.
He's one of those things. Think of Kamiko from The Boys.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was thinking of. Yeah.
That's what it is. It still hurts.
Yeah.
And also when he comes back to out of when he comes back to out of being dead.
Yeah.
He's very angry from it's obviously the pain of death.
Is he the guy that looks like a skeleton? I mean, is he?
No. He has a leotard and he has an eye on his
So he's a wrestler.
No, it's a full body suit.
Oh,
I don't know.
okay.
I've never seen a wrestler wear a full body suit like this.
Yeah.
So.
Bret the Hitman Hart.
Well, yeah, but he had this strap.
I guess you call that a
wraparound
singlet.
Sunglasses.
Is that what that is?
Yeah, the full body thing I think is a singlet.
Okay.
Then anyway, so what it is thanks to the great. I was gonna quick run through. Big Bertha is a part of it. Doorman.
Oh wow.
Flatman.
Doorman.
Yeah, he's a door to to. He can teleport people places. He is.
My goodness.
Am I boring you?
Oh,
Mike?
I am so sorry.
Yeah.
This is the afternoon when we're recording this, and I get a little sleepy.
That's fine.
Wow. I ate some chocolate earlier, and I'm thinking that sugar.
Day for Mike.
It's a big day. I think that sugar hit me. I had some leftover Taco Bell, so
Dude.
that's it's all kind of merging together.
Yeah, you're killing
there.
it.
Yeah.
Anyway, Doorman's a door. He can teleport people places. And then there's also Dinah.
Dinosaur?
No, Dinosaur.
Like a
She's part
dinosaur?
dinosaur, but her name is Dinah for the first name.
Yeah.
SOAR for the last name.
That's very good.
I think that's all of them. Flatman is kind of like Mr. Fantastic, except he's just flat all the time. I think eventually he can change into like.
So he's like Flat Stanley?
What's Flat Stanley?
You never heard of Flat Stanley?
It sounds familiar.
He's this guy made out of paper. He's about this big. Maybe a foot, probably less. That kids would get in their school class, and then they would take it places and take pictures and tell about the adventures that Flat Stanley had.
So
like
it was
you could put it in an envelope and mail it to your relatives in Minnesota, and they would take a picture of it with something there and then mail it back to you.
So it was a way to keep kids entertained at it.
Well, it was that, and to learn about like geography and travel and places like that.
By sending him in the mail?
Yeah. Well, it's cheaper than taking a trip.
Well, I get that. But, like, what do you – I'm just in theory, like, what do you learn about – like, let's say you have an aunt that lives in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Like, unless she tells you about Minnesota, what does Flat Stanley
Well, she
teach
takes
you
Flat
about?
Stanley to Lake Minnetonka, right?
Oh, and just takes his picture there.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's – okay.
And then you on your end research Lake Minnetonka, and figure out what.
Do you think we can make like stickers of us or like print at home versions, like cartoon versions of us to where you could take us places?
Flat Zach and Flat Mike?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sure. That's
I'm
easy.
afraid of where people would take us, though.
Oh, I would love that. That would be great. I'm all in for it.
Stay tuned.
Especially those folks that are leaving the comments on our audio.
Yeah.
There's a few in there that I think would take us some bad places.
That's fine.
Yeah.
So maybe
I would love that sort of interaction, though.
Then
That'd
you
be
know
great.
what we should do? We should get obviously next time Lucy's in, because I know she wanted to do this.
Yeah.
We could get her to make like
that's what she's hired for.
Animated versions of us, and then the Flat Zach and Flat Mike that you can take places.
Yeah. Oh,
we can make stickers of ourselves.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah. Anyway, so what we have for today instead is there's some Silver Age silly stories that I don't know how else to describe them better than that.
Silly stories.
That I had been keeping for us for an episode that we were going to do, and then we just never got around to it.
Okay.
Instead, we had ran a previous episode where we had some old like Silver Age shenanigans, Bat Baby, and
I love those things. Yeah, those
his
are the best.
greatest villain to date, the renegade scientist Garth. I think we also talked about Flash like popped his suit. Pa Kent pretended to be a supervillain during the 60s, specifically in DC more so. There's a lot of very just cartoony, crazy, out there things, and some of those stories are so ridiculous they're hilarious.
Sure.
And I have more of those today, but also because Deadpool is still coming out the end of Friday, I didn't want to be sans Deadpool completely.
Oh, absolutely.
And so at the end of this, I would like to throw in a Deadpool issue that I absolutely love still, so we can still talk Deadpool. Deadpool a little different, but it's one of my favorite issues of Deadpool I've ever read.
Oh,
so
cool.
We'll get to that once we get there for a lot of different reasons. But let's
Flat
go ahead.
Stanley.
Flat Stanley.
Deadpool meets Flat Stanley.
No, I don't think it's that crossover. Did you know? Because I was trying to remember like what I wanted to like preparing for future shows.
Yeah.
I have like series and stuff that I have saved for us. Which, by the way, if you guys have a recommendation, feel free to leave it below in the comics if we haven't done it, or in the comments. But there's a Joker and Mask crossover, like the Jim Carrey movie. Like it was an Image comic of the two of them, like a 4-issue series.
Well, I remember.
I can't think that would be. I don't know.
There was a Mask comic in Dark Horse.
Yeah, maybe it was Dark Horse, not Image.
When I was running the store that I tell you about, I mean, we would order a lot of the Mask. Dr. Giggles was a thing.
Oh, well, was that a movie?
It was a movie, yeah. But
I think the funny thing is like we have.
I think it was a comic book movie.
In the comics that you brought, the ones that
all the junk in my trunk.
Yeah, we've talked about this before. That's how we got stuck with the comic Sweet Meat, which was just
oh boy.
Whoo. But Mike, in the store that he ran, he came across a couple months ago just like boxes full of old comics that we went through and dug through, and I tried to find some gems that were in there. It was a black and white vampire comic that was just...
Oh, it was rough.
Yeah. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into today's, what we're going to look at on today's docket, which is some Silver Age shenanigans. I'm going to have to think of something different to call this show because I used that as a show title a couple weeks ago when I ran the reruns of the Bat Baby and stuff. We'll do something alliterative though. I can.
Well, I mean,
promise you that.
there's obviously the 4-letter S word. I mean, you could just do that.
Yeah, but we're classier than that, Mike.
Okay.
Usually. So let's go ahead and take a look at our first story today, which is going to be Adventure Comics number 256 from January of, and I forgot to write down the year, so that's great. These are all in the 60s.
That's what I was wondering. Like,
I will go ahead. I'll have them in the show notes.
Wait a minute. Which episode? Which issue is this?
There, it's Adventure Comics number 256.
256.
It's from January.
I'm going to tell you here in just
the cover is Superboy. But our comic that we're focused on, our story from this one that we're focusing on is not Superboy related. It is Aquaman related.
Aquaman.
At some point in time, Mike has brought up the idea that
1959.
Oh, 59.
Yeah, 1959.
My bad. So this one wasn't from the 60s. This one's from the 50s.
Again, 59. It could have been January. It could have been December 31st. You know, I mean,
that's true.
Which makes it closer to the 60s.
Honestly, though,
you
have to think if it was January of 59, they probably they would have these done months in advance because they have to send them to the printers and stuff. Sure. So this is probably done like October of 59.
Okay.
Of 58 if it's January 59. This has been, you okay?
Yeah, good.
This has been, I got you. This has been Dates with Mike and Zach. Anyway, let's look at Aquaman and the Ordeal of Aquaman. There's a reason I picked this comic.
He looks like he's in a desert.
He does. So our Aquaman adventure here, there's something that I learned from this that I didn't know before that I'm sure maybe a lot of Aquaman fans did know. I'll save it. I don't think Mike knew this either.
Can I guess?
What?
He's super lame. Is that what you were going to say?
Why? Oh. You know what? At some point in time, I know that there has to be really cool Aquaman stories out there that I want to find one just to show. I think that Super Friends made Aquaman lame. I think that's what it comes down to.
What'd they say about him at the end of the movie?
Of Peacemaker?
Uh-huh.
Well, it wasn't just at the end. It was throughout.
What'd they call him?
He procreates with fish.
There you
go. I still appreciate Jason Momoa playing along with that.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, what is he gonna
I think it was an AI version of Momoa, but sure.
But he's he's gonna be Lobo now, apparently, right?
I've heard, that. I don't know.
That's all rumor and innuendo.
Rumors are.
That's what a lot of this. Anyway, let's talk about our blonde-haired, orange-suited Aquaman here. What happens is,
and I'm sorry, I don't mean to keep derailing you. One of the lamest things, the fins on the calves. He has fins on his calves.
Really?
Like his calves are little sharks. That's the lamest
thing?
It's pretty lame.
No.
Yeah, pretty rough.
I can think of other superhero stuff that have, lame stuff.
I'm just talking about him, right?
Why do you... It's because of Super Friends that you hate Aquaman, right?
Well, yeah. He rides a giant seahorse. I mean, it's just stupid. Power of fish. And then they all show up.
He's not one of the Wonder Twins. They're not... He's not turned
Same
into,
show.
a bucket of water.
Same show.
It is.
No,
but that's the show. It's
if
not
they
the
turned into a bucket of water, he'd jump in it. I mean, that's,
Well, he's going to need it for this. We'll get into it. So one day, as Aquaman is out, he's out there swimming with his pal Topo. Did you know he had an octopus friend?
Topo,
his octopus friend.
Well, that's where the boys got it.
I'm assuming so. Potentially. But Topo and his friends, see, he's only friends with Topo. He's not friends with all the octopus, I'm assuming. Although he does talk to everybody. Anyway, he's out playing with Topo and his other octopus pals. And seconds later, they're caught in a net that's made out of a transparent material, right?
Yeah.
And Aquaman is desperately trying to free Topo and his octopus friends. But then he realizes, oh no, I've been caught just like a fish too in this giant clear box.
Trapped in a box.
Yeah. He does the whole mime.
Every mime's nightmare. Trapped in a box.
Yeah. Except it's a transparent box, and he's
raised
out of the water.
Transparent too. I mean,
well, that's true. Yeah, fair enough. But Aquaman and his octopus pals are raised up out of the ocean then by a crane.
His octopus pals.
I don't know what else to call them.
Yeah, that's great.
And they keep Aquaman inside the shipping area. Because without water, they're like, look at Aquaman. When he's not in water, he's getting weaker by the second because he's out of there, just like a fish out of water.
That is one wet boy. Yep.
So, the bad guys are like, that's great. We'll just kind of keep him, flying with us till he collapses. Oh, that's what it is. I'm sorry. They lower him. They lower him. They raise him up out of the ocean. They put him on their boat, and then from the boat, they transfer him to an airplane. They're purposely flying him away from the ocean, away from water.
Sure.
Then once they get out in the middle of the desert, they decide, all right, we're going to go ahead and drop him out here in the middle of the desert with no water.
Why?
Because he can't survive without water.
Well, I get that part.
This
but
is
I'm
their
saying,
great plan to get rid of Aquaman.
So they're getting rid of him?
Yeah, they're like, we're going to defeat Aquaman forever. Now all of our water crime will be safe.
Here's this is my only thing with comic books and James Bond movies.
Yeah.
Why don't you just shoot him in the head?
Well, here,
You're
okay.
done.
Okay. There's a point that I'll make with this.
Okay.
That's kind of to that.
Okay.
So while they're flying out over there, it says presently, where he goes, we can't stay up that long, boys. Like, we'll let the desert take care of him. We'll drop him out there with no water. And it says, as they drop him out, it shows they drop him with a parachute, right?
Okay.
You would think, why did they just not push Aquaman out of the plane?
That's what I'm
right?
saying, yeah.
And that's one of the bad guys brings that up, and he's like, personally, I'd have left out the chute. And the big boss, I know he's the big boss because he has a cigar in his mouth, tells him,
Well,
and
he's
have the
bald, too.
police
I mean,
investigate a 4,000-foot drop, you're bats. But if you want to see the finish, we'll hang around a while. Under the desert sun, Aquaman should give out before our fuel does. So he's just essentially saying, I don't want cops to investigate why Aquaman just fell out of the sky.
Sure.
Where do you start investigating that case, Mike?
Well, you start in the sky.
I
Everybody
mean,
knows
that's
that.
true.
You start right in the sky.
But are you telling me, like, they're the only plane that's leaving in and out of this place all day? Like, how would they know to look for them? Like,
Well,
there's just questions I have of why the thought of, I'm going to, it's kind of like Looney Tune.
What if
and
one of the
granted, it fits for the comics at the time, but
What if one
mentality.
of the desert animals got the call letters off the tail fin? You know?
Can Aquaman talk to cows the same way he can?
Not the
Or
same
camels.
way, but I mean, you know, they're
I thought can he just
just a different dialect.
communicate with?
That's all it is.
Okay.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Where does his power? Where do they end? Right? A frog gets in water. Can he talk to a frog? But a frog's an amphibian, right?
Yeah.
So it's not quite the same as a fish. So can you talk to clams? Because that's a
I mean,
different
they
kind
live
of.
in the.
So it's just anything that lives in the ocean.
I would think so.
Okay, saltwater or freshwater? I mean, I know you said ocean, so it's all saltwater. But can he also talk to the
I don't
fish?
know the logistics of 1959 Aquaman. I'm going to be
I'm
honest.
just saying. I mean,
I haven't read up enough on.
There's too much.
There's
too much
well,
to
that's
think
the
about.
thing. That's the reason why we have all the crisis. We had the infinite, the Crisis on Infinite Earth to begin with in '86 to kind of reset all this stuff. But that's why also, like, the thing is, none of this is in canon, honestly, right now.
This is not?
Well, no, because everything like wipes in '86.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Like they wanted to put everything streamlined down on like one pass, so like everything wipes and like like you have essentially like you have that to have continuity kind of restart then.
I must find water. I must.
Yeah, so Aquaman is stuck out in the desert.
God, it's like 4 panels, and he already looks decimated.
He does.
I mean,
Here's the thing. The shadow that they give him on one makes it look like he's wearing a Lone Ranger mask, kind of. It's a domino mask in a way.
Domino mask, yeah. He's
But
wearing it
as
on his ear, too.
as Aquaman is fading, as he's marching out through the desert, he notices some cars racing through. And the cars do stop to help Aquaman, like nice kids would.
However, one of them is Namor.
That's the crossover you didn't see coming here.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Beats him
they
to death with
tell
a tire
Aquaman,
iron.
like, hey, we're sorry, we don't have any, like, water. And Aquaman tells him, no, you're wrong. There's water in your radiators. Go get the water out of your radiators and give it to me. Which
Yeah,
is just a little, I get that he's trying to survive, but it seems just like he's a little pushy there.
Well, like, if I'm going to die in the desert, you should, too. Give me all your water.
Exactly. So they carry their water back to him in a shirt.
Okay.
And he like uses it to like
perfect.
Pat off his face, and he feels
Sure.
better now. But then he's like, all right, I'll be able to make it to town. You guys are good to go. And then as soon as they leave, he's just kind of woozy again. He's like, I spoke too soon.
Well, you're going to need more than just the water out of a radiator.
Well,
You're basically a fish man.
exactly. You would think that. The main bad guys are back to the like aquifers, is what I'm going to call them. They essentially go to the reservoir. Sorry.
Yeah.
And they turn off the water to the town just as Aquaman gets there. So Aquaman bursts into town asking for a glass of water, and the townspeople are like, oh, of course, Aquaman. Like, we'll definitely get you water.
So,
But they go to turn the faucet and there's nothing there. Yeah.
So they didn't want a guy falling out of a plane to be investigated.
No.
But them turning off all of the water in a
That's why
municipality,
none of this
that's
makes
okay.
sense on that. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, no.
Got it.
That's at this point, you just kick him out of the plane, I think. If you
Cops
have no plan for any of the rest of it, like,
That's what I'm saying.
why?
Cops will never look at who turned the freaking water off to an entire town.
Exactly. So, he goes through and, like, they notice even, like, the water hydrant, and they have no water whatsoever.
Sure, yeah.
But they have a skating rink. So, Aquaman, in his bossy self again, orders them to open up the roof of the ice rink to let the sun melt the ice so he has water there.
I would like it better if Aquaman came in and just started licking the floor. You know, just
the visual of that is fantastic. But no. But that's the thing too, though. Like, what if they're like, but Aquaman, it's the playoffs, and he's like, I don't give a damn about your hockey team. Let's melt this. Like, I gotta go.
This is near a desert.
It is.
So you have to assume it's either California, Arizona.
I'm thinking so. Yeah.
New Mexico, maybe.
It's somewhere.
Arizona.
What ocean is there? Well, honestly, what ocean is there
that's
in
true.
Arizona?
That's true.
It's
so
got to be California.
You have to have an ocean and then a city next to it that's got a.
Or somewhere along the Pacific Northwest.
Maybe it's just a skating rink. Maybe it's not an NHL team.
Because I think that, like, part of, like, if you cross over the mountains into, like, Oregon.
Yeah.
Like, into, like, Bend and, like, Central Oregon in that area. Like, I think it's a lot drier than it is on the. I don't know if it's. I don't think it's deserty,
right.
but you're right. Like, California would work, I guess. I don't think they're driving them all the way to, like, Nevada or somewhere. So.
Yeah, I just want to know where this town is.
I don't know. They never give us a town. But so he feels better. And they're like, that's all we got. Like, you know, that was a close call, Aquaman. An hour it took him to soak up all the water there. And then he heads out again. But he notices the smugglers, I guess that's the bad guys, kind of turn around to go back to check to make sure, like, Aquaman doesn't get back to the ocean still.
He's a selfish water whore.
He is.
What he is, yeah.
He is. Especially in this one.
Selfish water whore.
I'm glad you cracked yourself up. So he realizes he has to hide, but he exerts himself from running and hiding from all the smugglers, and so the water he just absorbed, like, he's losing all that energy again.
I am right there with him.
Mike, are you ready for the best part of the comic?
Running and hiding always tires me out.
But then he realizes as he crawls into a barn to, like, escape the smugglers, he goes, it says 10 minutes later, I'm done for. I'm limp from this chase. I'd hoped to replenish my strength at the reservoir. But now, if the rogues bust in, I couldn't raise a hand to fight back. He's just that weak, Mike.
Yeah.
Without
weak.
water, he's done for.
Pretty weak.
But then the next moment, why? It's Topo. He escaped with his fellow octopi. Those smugglers haven't cornered me yet. Do you want to think what his great plan is for him to use the octopus? He goes, as the octopi swiftly obey.
Okay, so
maybe, you want to guess before we do this?
Well, I think they're going to milk the cows, number one. And then does he ride out on a cow?
Yeah, 1 out of 2 ain't bad. As the octopi swiftly obey, maybe my octopus pals aren't as pretty as milkmaids, but they have dozens more hands to work with. Okay, Topo, now bring that milk over to this trough. Any liquids restore my strength. Any liquid restores my strength.
Any liquids.
Any liquid.
That's Mark 3:25, I think. Any liquids restore my strength.
No.
Yeah.
So it says, as we see Aquaman now in a
They're
trough.
just pouring buckets of milk on him.
Yes. And it says, that's it, friends.
What
a
the
milk
F
bath
is
for
this?
Aquaman so he can lead the rascals to more water than they care to look at.
The little rascals.
That's the smugglers, I guess he's talking about. So, yeah, we get Octopus just dumping gallons of milk onto
Spanky,
Aquaman.
Alfalfa.
Topo the Octopus?
Topo the Octopus.
What was the dog's name?
rascals. It was Petey.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it says an hour later on the
And
outskirts
that was just
of
a
town.
dog with shoe polish around his eye. That's all that
really?
was. Yeah. Yeah.
There's a...
Just like Mr. Ed was just a horse with a mouthful of peanut butter.
You ever watch Superstore?
Yeah.
There's a Superstore bit that I love where Glenn, like, calls this dog guy because they work at Cloud9, and he asks him for a terrier that has a cloud shape over his eye. And they're like, oh, well, it says you have all breeds. Like, he just thought, like, that's how the target dog. Oh, man, I love that show. Anyway, so.
You know the guy that was in the wheelchair?
Garrett. I can't think of his name. Colton.
Yeah, that's right.
What is his last name?
Well, he
now?
was just
I'm
on
sorry.
After Midnight.
Right.
He's been
He's
on there a
hilarious.
couple of times.
Yeah.
He's very funny. He can walk.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
Seems like appropriation.
I don't know.
Put him in a wheelchair?
I don't know. I think it's
Okay.
for the.
Just asking. I don't know the rules.
So Aquaman, back on hand. Aquaman is busting through. And it says an hour or so. He took a bath for an hour.
Yeah.
And while he's there on the outskirts, he goes, "Come on, Topo! Like we're gonna get them to like chase after me, and we'll kind of lure them into our trap here. Like they're gonna think I'm gonna stumble through the skylight out of pure exhaustion, so they're gonna have me cornered."
Sure.
So he purposely falls through a skylight, and the bad guys go after him, only to fall into the clear cage from before with all of his octopus friends in there.
Can you imagine how Aquaman smells right now?
Awful.
He's been sitting in a tub of milk
For an hour.
and he was saved by some on-land octopi.
Mm-hmm.
None of this can be good.
No. And all it does is it shows him a week later on the high seas. Well, Topo, all the smugglers are behind bars, and we've got all the water we want. All's well that ends well with Aqua for Aquaman. All right, our next story.
Let me just say, this is why comics are dying.
I love Silver Age stuff like this. Like it's the right amount
I
of
get you.
because that's the beauty of it. Is I love good serious stories. I mean, look behind me right here, like there. I love Mr. Miracle.
do it.
I
It's
love
trap.
Tom King. I know a lot of people don't. That's fine. I love Mark Waid.
People don't
as
like
a writer.
Tom King?
Yeah, a lot of people don't.
Why?
Oddly enough, they don't like his Batman run. I know that. I don't know. I liked it.
Yeah.
It's all like. It's writers just like with anything else. You're going to
Yeah.
have people who like it, people who don't.
Yeah,
Anyway,
sure.
I'm just saying, like, for every serious, like, great story that I like out there, Alan Moore's fantastic. The
Yeah.
Watchmen's great.
Yeah.
But you know what? Sometimes I like to just laugh and be silly.
Yeah, it's true.
And that's
That's
why I love either, like, really well-written, like, comedy comics that, for like, Kyle Starks and Steve Pugh's Peacemaker Tries Hard, which is a fantastic series, or even looking back at like these old Silver Age stuff. Like they weren't intentionally meant to be as funny as we find them now, but I think that just finding joy and fun in the stories and the characters, like there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever.
Well, it's like anything else, right?
It doesn't have to be that serious.
But it's like anything else. I mean, it's context, right? So if I talk about movies that came from the 80s or whatever, I have all of that context in my head of the time and the places and all that kind of stuff. Anybody that these 20-something-year-olds that I work with, they watch that movie. They don't have that context. So when they watch Breakfast Club, it's not near as big a deal to them as it was to me because they've seen 100 movies like it afterwards.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
and I get that too.
The same deal with the comics is what I'm saying. These were written for children at the time.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
And so, like, us looking back at them now, like, of course it's
Children
ridiculous.
from the 50s
But
and 60s.
I think it's, you just appreciate it the way you want to.
Yeah.
Like, that's the
absolutely.
thing with it all.
Sure.
It's like, I don't understand just, like,
Without all of this, we wouldn't have what we have today, though.
That's true.
So that's,
That's true.
We make fun of it and all that stuff because it's goofy.
it is.
Because
But we have fun. Like, we're having fun with it. Like, I appreciate the medium, and I'm just celebrating the medium
Dude
anyway.
sat in milk for several hours,
He did.
and then he comes out with Smelly Octopus as his friend.
Yeah.
And then we don't know if he's taking a shower, taking a dip,
I'm
anything,
assuming that him just swimming around
because
in the
he's
ocean.
in a
You
freaking
think the
boat a
salt
week
kills it?
later.
No, that's true.
So he
But
just got a stink. He's a
little bit.
stinky boy.
a little.
He's a stinky fish boy.
So let's go ahead before we take a break here at the halfway point, and let's get one more Silver Age story in. Then I got a Batman story that is, woo-hoo,
All right,
and
let's go.
we'll have some Deadpool. But it's time for everybody's. I will tell you this, something that I've noticed here lately
Yeah.
is that I appreciate Superman more the older I've gotten.
Yeah.
Not like a thing of like you have to be,
No,
at
I
a
get
certain
what
point.
you're
Not
saying,
like
yeah.
that. But I think with the
You are
way,
wearing a red, white, and blue hat, but
I
sure.
am, but it's rain. I'm honestly, I didn't mean to, but I'm kind
Yeah.
of matching.
Yeah, you got your little
like,
suit on.
like I'm very Texas
Fan
baseball
suit.
related.
Yeah.
My nails honestly are kind of like Spider-Man and Deadpool related,
yeah, there you
like
go.
painted. I was
Yeah.
trying to plan and do a thing, but
I see.
best laid plans of
Yeah.
mice and men. I don't know. That's
Best
a
laid
quote I
plans
just made
of
up.
Deadpool and Wolverine.
Spider-Man in this case. We'll get to that one at some point in time. But he's a character that with everything that's like out in the world of like everything just there's so much like anti-heroes or
Sure.
just like so much like everybody needs to be cool and gruff and like it's just nice to see a guy that's just like good for the sake of being good in a way.
Sure.
Like Homelander is a batshit crazy character.
Yeah, he is.
Mort, I mean, either in the comics or in the show, whichever
That
you
is
want
not
to.
spoiling anything because
No, not at all.
from episode 1, he's
That's
batshit
true.
crazy.
It's nice to see like I don't know. Like I've always liked the thought. Alan Moore's quote of Superman is kind of the closest thing that America has in a sense of like to Greek mythology.
Yeah.
Like he's an alien who came from another planet. Like he has the powers of a god who
That's
doesn't
true
use
when you look
those.
at it that way. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Who doesn't use those to show that he's better than, but uses them instead to like lift up and raise. Like he's kind of like comic book Jesus. So,
Ooh.
but like, you know what I mean? Like,
Hey, can I ask? And I know the answer to this. There's some religious comics out there, right?
yeah, for sure.
Like the Adventures of Jesus.
I mean, like I'm sure, Mike. There's
Little-
comic books for everything.
Little known miracles or something.
Do you want me to hunt those?
Like
down?
he moved that rock from there to there, that kind of thing.
No, I don't think they're going to be like that. I think it's probably more like it's just Bible stories, but in comic form.
Yeah.
Which could be.
Yeah. If you come
humorous in a
across
way.
one of those, I think maybe for Easter,
Oh,
or something like
okay.
that. Yeah.
We'll have to plan for 2025.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Yeah. No, I'll keep. Here's the thing.
This
There
point in
is
my life, I
bad
take it day
media
by
for
day.
everything. Like we've covered Marvel PSAs before. I made a short out of it recently. If you want to go back and listen to the full episode, though, that they did for like Captain America versus the asthma monster that was presented by like Marvel and like prescription drug companies.
I absolutely.
And then they had
love those.
Vapora for like the gasoline company. It was like to show you how to prevent fires and stuff like that.
Any of the PSA
I think
ones.
Planned Parenthood and Spider-Man did one. That was funny too. But so like, I don't know where I was going with the PSA part. I was just saying that there's something about silly. Oh, so like silly things in comics exist. So I'm sure like it's out there for sure. Let's get into Superman. We like to
The
ramble.
Amazing Adventures of Paul.
He has Superman's new power. Is the
Yeah.
story of this one from Superman number 125.
He's shooting rainbows out of his hands.
He is. So what do you think that power is, Mike?
And it says, "Don't tell anybody." His
Yeah.
new power.
Don't tell anybody his new power. And everybody's in awe on the cover of like what it could be.
I think he's shooting happiness at people.
Okay, that's what
Yeah.
you think. So let's go
Yeah.
ahead and get into it.
Joy, happiness, something in there.
We start off with like a little like flashback at the beginning of like people are asking like, "Hey, Superman, can you help us fight crime now that you've lost all your powers?" And he's like,
just
"Yeah."
sitting at a table drinking a
Drinking
cup of coffee.
coffee.
Okay,
Yeah.
so he's lost his powers?
That's what they're letting you know here. And he's like, "Don't worry, Commissioner," because it's the police commissioner. "My new power is all I need. Just listen to those crooks around the corner." And you hear like sounds off panel of like something happening to said criminals off the page. Well, it all happens where.
And he just sits there drinking coffee while these people are screaming for help
Yeah.
nearby.
Well, no, it's not people.
Okay.
It's the bad guys. That are
Right,
being,
but it literally says, "Superman, please help me," in the stuff that they're calling out to him.
help Superman, like somebody.
Yeah, please
like,
call. You
off
see what
your
I'm saying? It's like,
New power.
it's almost like he's
Yeah, but it
just
says
like,
Superman, please call off your new power.
okay.
It's like they spaced it.
Well, he's just like sitting there going, screw these
Yeah, he
guys."
doesn't. Yeah. We find out that one day at the Daily Planet, all of a sudden it feels like the building's swaying,
Ah,
and Clark uses his X-ray vision, or X-ray and telescopic vision,
sure.
to show that there's disturbances deep down in the bedrock. So he
I love
burrows
that
himself
episode
down.
of the Flintstones. It's great.
He burrows himself deep down underneath the Earth or underneath the Daily Planet area there
Yeah.
to the center of the
Ooh,
world there.
Look at
I
that.
guess it says finally at the flaming core of the Earth, and he notices like, all right, there's some plates that like there's gaps that have happened. They've eaten. Or
What's the pink clouds of what look like mist?
I think it's just smoke.
Okay, so that's smoke from all the fire in the middle of the planet.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, got it. Hot core.
But so he like melds together the crack in the rock wall and the crystallite, and I don't know. I'm sure it's probably
Crystal
like
light.
Yeah, it says.
Is that what you just said?
Well, how do you pronounce
Like
over
the
there?
drink?
No, but CHRYSO.
Oh, chrysolite.
Chrysolite.
Got it. I
Thank you.
swear to God, you said
I might have said
Crystal Light.
crystallite, but it
And
was crystallite.
all I can think of is pink lemonade.
Well,
You know?
that's what he does.
Yeah, Crystal Light.
This flame-proof pink lemonade should seal the gap. That's what he says there. Anyway, as he sits there on his way
that
out,
shit is flame-proof,
Probably.
honestly.
it might be. He flies out and notices a little spaceship, and when he comes in contact to it, it explodes.
Always happens.
He's like, oh, it blew up at my touch. Like as soon as he touched it, he's like, that's weird. My power, like some strange power, must have been like it feels like it's coursing through me.
He has
All right,
bad
whatever.
luck with spaceships.
He is very bad with
He
spaceships.
crashes them. He blows them up.
Well, he didn't crash it. There's
He
no
crashed
pilot.
It crashed.
Yeah, how's a baby going to drive a spaceship?
He's super baby. Come on. Different rules. Just saying.
So, as he comes out of the center of the earth, like Superman's one to do, he notices that there's a
runaway vehicle.
Yeah, coming towards him. Essentially, he prepares to nab fleeting crooks.
It looks like a runaway Edsel.
And he tries to use whatever power. Just says these rays are coming from my fingers. What are they?
Oh.
And they're like, it's Superman. Come on, we better get out of here. Or let's just run straight into him, see if he can withstand this car.
Finally, Superman's going through puberty.
They knock him out of the way, and he tumbles over the vehicle.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they're like, oh, his powers must be gone, and they start shooting at him.
Oh,
but thankfully,
yeah, I would too.
Bullets still ricochet off of him, so he doesn't have to worry about that.
All right, so he's still bulletproof.
But an instant later, it says, my fingertips are getting brighter, and now a burst of brilliance, and the crooks don't know what's going on. They're like, what is that? I can't help. We give up. Just take us to jail. Whatever he is emitting from his fingers is enough to, the crooks are like, no, don't, please.
Give it up, crooks, or I'll squirt you again.
While they're there in jail, they tell him, it says somewhat later, as reporters interview the terrified crooks in jail, you mean that you just stood there and his new power reached out? And they're like, yeah, just like we said, we know it sounds crazy, but you got to see it to believe it, man. His new power, it's crazy. You still got to guess on what his new power is? You said happiness.
I do think it's still joy, happiness, something like that, like an attitude adjustment.
So news spreads far and wide.
It's an attitude adjustment.
Power. That's what it is. He's John Cena now. That was the move where.
Yeah, don't talk about it.
Okay, so the fact that I did the.
Yeah, I got you. That's the dance.
Says, boys, all I know is that my new power must have something to do with that spaceship I touched. Just wish that. I just wish, and my fingers glow brighter, and they get cut off. He cuts them off. Doesn't tell them what it is.
He's not the world's greatest detective, but he's close.
He's not.
He figured it out.
And then it says, suddenly, as an army vehicle passes by, Superman, thank heavens, you're here.
Yeah.
A sudden jolt set off the firing mechanism of this cannon, and it's jammed. It will go off any second. And it says, Superman goes, I'll have to use my new power now. Now you'll be able to see it in action.
Oh,
you ready to see it?
I'm ready.
And he's able to shoot off a tiny Superman from his fingertips.
So those rainbows coming from his hands are just tiny little Supermans?
Misdirect. No, it's just one. He goes, see? A tiny replica of myself. The people who made that spaceship were advanced in science. They must have developed a force that enabled them to project an image of themselves anywhere they wanted. So that's what he does. He just shoots little Superman out of his hands.
I have done some really stupid things in my life, and I've seen some really stupid people do stupid things.
Mm-hmm.
This is by far the worst thing I've ever seen a superhero do. I'm going to go back on my word and say Aquaman's cool compared to this.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Even the milk bath?
Yes, I don't care. I don't care. He's shooting tiny Superman out of his hands.
And goes, it's like telepathy. All my powers are embodied in the little duplicate of himself, which I project anywhere.
Nope.
Then it goes one at a time. It yanked them out of the car, and it's talking about the bad guys.
So he just stands there and
he just shoots a little Superman out, and he just watches little Superman do the crime.
Beat the shit out of people.
Exactly.
Huh. Well,
that's his power. It's
it's a good job if you can get it.
I'll have to melt this dangerous iceberg which drifted into Metropolis Harbor. Hold on, what's a iceberg doing in Metropolis Harbor?
I don't know. What is it connected to that a freaking iceberg would come in?
Since I no longer have my X-ray vision, I'll materialize my Tom Thumb duplicate and concentrate him to use it.
Thumb duplicate.
So he just holds his hand out and shoots a little Superman out there, and the Superman uses his X-ray vision to melt the iceberg. Then
This is something.
then we see like
shoot tiny Superman out of my hand.
that's what he does.
And it's only one.
And he
That
gets,
makes it even more
here's
lame.
the beauty of it. He starts to get jealous of little Superman because he doesn't have his own powers anymore.
Sure.
So then he's like, yes, everyone has forgotten Superman. All they talk about is his new power.
You know,
That evening, as the latest news flashes atop the Daily Planet, it's terrific. He just holds his hand out and suddenly it appears.
he's looking at this all wrong
Wow, how's that?
because he doesn't have to wear that suit anymore. He can just dress like Clark Kent all the time, have a regular job. When there's a crime, you just
But
go,
then he
pew!
would shoot out little Clark Kents.
No, he'll shoot out little Supermans.
No, he could shoot out. I think it's like whatever he's dressed is what he shoots out.
That can't be a thing. You put
It's
on
the
a top
50s
hat.
and 60s.
You put on a top hat, and a little Superman on a top hat's going to come out of your
Yeah,
hand?
I think so.
Oh, come on.
That's the logic I'm using. He goes, everyone's impressed except me. Don't they understand how I feel playing second fiddle to a miniature
To myself?
duplicate of myself? And he goes, then, as another news flash circles the
dumbass.
tower, and it says, giant guided missile plummeting towards Eiffel Tower. And all the people are like, watch Superman's hands. He's going to use his new power again.
Oh, no.
And then they go like, oh, he's cute. And he's like, cute? What nonsense. Don't they realize it's not alive, but just a force I materialize? My image which borrows my superpowers.
Oh,
Now
yeah.
they want you to make sure. Here's a callback to something else we got when we talked about Silver Age shenanigans when we do this in kids' books. We want you to realize that thing that looks like a person isn't a real thing.
Right.
It's not a person.
Right.
You shouldn't feel bad for it.
Right.
It's the same thing they did with Bizarro. Remember when
Sure.
Superboy was a
Yeah.
super dick to him?
He was a big
when the
big
whole
dick
town,
to
like all he
Bizarro.
wanted to do was be nice to people.
Yeah.
And they were just so mean to Bizarro. But they wanted to remind you, Bizarro's not real. He's
Bizarro's
not a
not a real
person.
guy.
Yeah. Oh, I hated that logic. So, but little Superman goes and knocks out the guided missile that's threatening the Eiffel Tower.
Little Super.
Then it says the next morning, as troubled Superman patrols Metropolis, it talks about like there's a fire that breaks out on a boiler ship. He has to send little Superman out. Like there's all these little problems. It gets to a point of where like
that little Superman just knocks people's hats off.
he does. Well, that's the thing is he's just walking down the street and like a mugging just so happens. And now Superman doesn't even have to hold his hand out. Little Superman just appears. So he's like,
Oh, see, that's a problem.
now I'm just like a beacon for it. Like
That's
all I
a
do is just
problem,
walk
though.
around.
Yeah, you can't do that.
And he's like, oh, like what am I even good for? He's like, I am no longer Superman. I'm just a place for that strange form to occupy.
Well, it's kind of
I
like
must get rid of it, but how?
it's kind of like being a teenager and getting a hard on in math class. You know, it just happens, right? Just like little Superman. Yeah.
So, and then one night, as Superman confronts a new energy, he gets an idea. A shower of meteorites heading for Metropolis, and one of them contains kryptonite, a substance that can destroy me. I'll order my image to save the city from the meteors.
So he's gonna kill
And
it.
if the kryptonite should destroy him, well, it goes, well, that's his tough luck.
He's gonna kill little Peter Dinklage Superman.
He's going to send tiny Superman to his death.
Wow.
Because Superboy grew up to be a...
Super dick
There you go.
in the back of man.
Especially like early on, Superman
Oh yeah.
is an a-hole.
Oh yeah.
Remember when he tricked everybody into thinking Batman was a witch because
Yes.
Batman didn't introduce him
Yes.
to the girl he had a
Put him in
crush
the
on?
stockades.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
because like they both had a crush on the same girl and she liked Bruce more. So he's like, I'm going to pretend he's a witch and get him thrown in the stockades. But what we find out
He's like a little kid. You
he
know,
is.
when he
Here's
gets
the thing. 50s and 60s Superman
Yeah.
is like Homelander.
he has a lot of vengeance.
He does.
He gets jealous.
They
real
wrote him
easily.
like that a lot,
He does
yeah.
all that stuff. Yeah, he's like a
man.
13-year-old.
He very much
you
so
know?
is. But
Well, if you're going to take away my Xbox, then I'm going to throw a meteor at you.
so his plan doesn't work because the tiny Superman uses one of the other meteorites to punch it into the kryptonite one because it can sense that it's
That's smart.
kryptonite and knocks it back out of the way.
I was kind of hoping Tiny Superman would then shoot another tinier Superman out of his tiny hand, and then that one would shoot another one. And so then you got little minuscule Superman.
Just like it
maybe
repeats.
microscopic
It's like
Superman.
what are the Russian nesting dolls of
yeah,
Superman?
Yeah, but the final one is the one that gets killed by the kryptonite.
Oh, I got you. No,
And the rest of them just go.
No,
right
so
back
it
up in him.
knocked the kryptonite like out of its path, and it lands somewhere, and crooks find it, and they pick it up because they're going to use a catapult and fire it right back at Superman. Because it says somewhat later, come on, guys, and they fling it via catapult back at him, but then little Superman, or the tiny miniature Superman,
knocks it
sacrifices
right out of the way.
himself. He pushes Superman out of the way, and he jumps onto the kryptonite meteor to ride it to his death as he fades away and sends it soaring into the ocean.
The bravest of souls.
Superman goes back and fights the crooks. It goes that moment.
He knocked their
the
head
tiny image completely disappears. He got his superpowers back.
Oh, good.
And he goes, I'm my old self. And then it just shows him like there with the crooks. And then it just says later, I wonder, did it have a life of its own which it sacrificed for me? Or was it just carrying out my thoughts before I could put them into words?
That's a good
I'll
point.
never know. The
It's
end.
like the center of a lollipop.
Yeah, and so it just fades off. Oh, you say that because there's a Tootsie Roll
here's the
underneath
thing.
it.
I want to see. There's a contest down there.
Yeah, I think it's done. Who won it?
Well, I want to see what. So the
Name the
contest
Bear
is
contest?
Enter the big Tootsie Roll Name the Bear contest.
I love how Mike is now more interested in the Tootsie Roll commercial. Or
Tootsie
ad that's
Roll
at the bottom of it.
Tootsie Roll has a bear mascot named Red Raspberry Bear.
Why wasn't it Red Raz
You got me, dude.
Bear?
You got me.
Well, and then it could
The official name for the bear is unknown in the absence of an original catalog, but online sellers have described this unusual yet charming gift item as, you ready for it?
be. Yeah.
Vintage plush bear.
Vintage plush bear. Cool. All right.
Stupid.
Well, this is the perfect place for us to take a break. When we
I
come
like the
back,
owl better.
we have a Batman story that is a doozy.
Yeah.
And I promised Deadpool, so we'll cover him a little bit then before we close out today's issue. We'll be right back here on Bros, Foes, and Heroes.
Bing bong.
And welcome back into Bros, Foes, and Heroes. I'm Zach. That's Mike.
Hey.
It might not take a break. We'll have a break of some sort.
Yeah.
Sometimes it doesn't, and you just hear the music come back, and you're like, oh, where's my break?
That's all right.
Some places you do.
Yeah.
Just depends on where you listen. Anyway, let's get
We
back.
get a
We
little
got
break
one more.
from our voices.
Huh? Yeah, it's
Yeah,
a
that's
a
what that is.
reprieve
Yeah.
from our beautiful voices.
Yeah, our golden tones.
Yep. So we got one more Silver Age story, a Deadpool
Awesome.
story, and then we're it for the day.
Let's go.
This Batman story is fantastic. We look at Batman from number 183,
Uh-huh.
and this is
August.
one. It's from
I
August
don't know what
of the year that it
but
came
was
out.
August, and it was 12 cents.
Holy emergency! What's the real reason Batman's goofing off?
He's eating popcorn and drinking beer.
And he's watching the Adventures of Batman on TV. No, it's not beer. It says pop.
Does it say pop?
No, it doesn't.
It does
says
not, but it has
popcorn.
a straw in it. So
It does.
I'm
You don't. Who
assuming
drinks
that's
beer
pop.
with a? Somebody does. So
I used to.
What happens in this story?
Sorry, I was thinking funnel. Mine was mostly funnel.
It's another one where they love to show you like the climax
Yeah.
of the story and then like kind of ruin what's coming up. So I'm not
Nothing.
gonna tell you this part
Yeah.
because I'm just we'll skip the first page and we'll come organically to it.
I think he ends up in a cheese net.
It's not cheese, but it is gooey.
Okay. All right.
So it says, as moonlight filters through the windows of a Gotham City import and export warehouse, Batman and Robin are, my nose itches for some
Look
reason.
at him importing tiki doll head things.
And like vases and different stuff. Yeah. So Batman and Robin are breaking up this racket in this warehouse, and as they bust through, like Robin goes after the single guy, while Batman chases. It's like three crooks that kind of split off in different ways.
These crooks at this time look kind of like they ought to be going after Dick Tracy.
That's very true.
They're very
That's what the
like,
bad guys
top
look
hats,
like at the time.
all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Fedoras.
And so
Why were criminals in full suits? By the way?
because they were. That's back when criminals had morals, Mike.
Oh, okay.
They were
All right.
gentlemen back then.
Okay, I get it.
Batman, as he's chasing after one of the guys, falls through a trap door,
Oh.
right? And he lands in this sticky net.
Yeah.
And he goes, it was a trap door below me, a net covered with some gooey substance, and below that, the river itself.
I think we all know where this is going.
He goes, I'm stuck fast, and I can't get free. And about that time, we see a voice overhead that essentially tells him, I set a whole series of traps for you, Batman. With my good luck and your bad luck, you fell into the very first one. My 5 years of planning have paid off right off the bat. Ha, 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 ha. So here's the thing.
5 years.
5 years of planning
for one trap door.
I'm going to try a trap door first. Oh, that worked. Does a little bit of you feel like, man, the other plans I came up with, like Batman's not really that great after all.
Yeah, on your deathbed, you're looking back at this and going, boy, if I just had those 4 years back.
Yeah, like I could have worked on like maybe schemes after that of how to rob banks, but then
or
like,
how to speak another language.
Yeah,
or
no.
you know,
If
loving
I
my
would have known
family.
the trap door is all it would have taken.
Yeah, yeah.
But so
My wife left me. The kids are in the system at this point.
But I got Batman with the
But I got
trap
Batman
door.
and a trap door and a gooey net.
Yeah. So he leaves him there and he tells him essentially like what happens.
But we don't know who
as-
this is yet.
We don't know who this is.
He's a ha-ha.
Spoiler alert, you're never going to find out who it is.
Oh, cool.
Well,
Shadow Boy.
you'll see what I mean. Like it's not like a big time villain.
Yeah. Yeah.
He also tells him like you're not going to be able to like shake yourself free from this, and the tide's going to rise on the river, so it'll eventually drown you there.
Wait, is there a tide on a river?
Apparently, in this it is, because he talks about the tide is rising, but I know he says the river itself is below him.
There's no tide on a river.
In Gotham, there is.
Okay.
So
Rivers are not controlled by the moon.
in Gotham, they are.
Okay.
As he leaves, he closes the door, and we see it's somebody else dressed as Batman. And he goes, and knowing that I'm also going to get rid of Robin in a fate that's worse even than your own, I think about that as the waters rise, is what he tells him.
Oh, my goodness.
But Batman, he goes,
Now you got a fake Batman on the loose.
held fast in the gluey webbing, scarcely able to do more than wriggle, the cowled crusader reflects. And he goes, he thinks he's got everything all figured out. But like all criminals, he's made one mistake. Robin will spot that slip up and save himself. Meantime, I'd better do some escaping escape thinking for the spot I'm in. So already he says, I know that Robin's going to be able to know exactly who this is and get out of it.
Yeah, from everything I know about Robin, that ain't a thing.
Okay. Well, as soon he sees Batman kind of come out, hobbling out, and he goes, Batman, why the foot drag? And he tells him, oh, I think I twisted my ankle bad enough. You'll have to drive me back to the Batcave. And he goes, sure thing. As soon as I phone the police on the Batmobile hotline to come collect these crooks. And the next panel, he goes, that isn't the real Batman. Even though he talks like him, if he thinks I'm driving him to the Batcave, he's flipped his cape. Instead, I'll drive him to the auxiliary Batcave on the other side of Gotham City.
The auxiliary Batcave.
Yeah, there's multiple Batcaves.
First I've ever heard of this.
Same. So he does drive Batman over there, and he goes and he sets him down, and it's like after the Batmobile arrives there, and he goes, hey, sit down, Batman, relax, and, turn on the TV documentary about you and some of our great adventures. I guess they're calling the TV show.
Yeah.
With Adam West, the documentary.
I don't know. That wasn't the Adventures of Batman, though.
Well, that's true. Maybe maybe this is before that.
Yeah.
I don't know. But he tells him to take a load off, and he's like, he essentially fakes a phone call to get out of the Batcave.
No!
And he's like, hey, Batman, are you going to come fight crime with me? And Batman's like, no, I'm good. Like, you go ahead, Robin. My ankle, I wouldn't be good anyway.
Okay. I'm interested to see why somebody would want to dress up like Batman and then do nothing.
Right? So he's like, okay. And essentially Robin gets in the Batmobile, leaves the Batcave.
Yeah.
And while he's out there, he just drives off a little bit away from the Batcave.
Yeah.
And parks and pulls up antenna and watches him back at the Batcave on a TV. It's kind of like if its parents are like, okay, y'all don't throw a party now.
Yeah.
And he leaves, but he parks himself to where he can still see the driveway and just watch if anybody shows up. That's what Robin's doing, essentially. And he waits, and he turns the TV on to see what the guy's doing. And he notices, oh, he's pulling out a bomb. He's going to try to blow up the Batcave.
Uh-oh.
And it's like, holy TNT, this guy plays rough. He's like, I'm getting
TNT.
some sort of strange interference. And he goes and he pops the hood. And he's like, it's the same kind of bomb. He was going to try to blow up the Batmobile too. So
this guy.
Robin disables the bomb, waits for the fake Batman to leave the Batcave, disables that bomb in the Batcave, realizes, oh, he's going to want to see some explosion, turns both of the bombs back on, and throws them away at a place that's away from the Batcave for the explosion to happen. Okay? You following me?
Yeah, unfortunately I am.
Then he watches Batman drive away in a 2-door sedan. with binoculars. I'm sorry, with batnoculars.
Oh.
And it goes, all right, I took care of the Batcave and Robin's dead. Now all I got to do is go take care of Batman. Or he goes, I got to go see what remains left of him. Like he thinks, dude, the tide's already taken care of him.
So he's going to go check on Batman in the gooey net.
And he goes back and he opens up the trap door. And as soon as he opens up the trap door, boom, he gets punched in the face.
He gets zocked.
He gets zocked. And
Z-O-K-K.
the two evil Batmen fight back and forth. There's punches thrown to each other's chests. There's like vases smashed over each other's head in a very
Ka-wham.
typical battle.
Yep.
Until finally our Batman gets the upper hand as he throws the evil Batman or the fake Batman into a like suit of armor.
Huh.
And it topples over him. And Robin asks him as he races in, Batman, like, how'd you escape? And he tells him, well, I got to read this. The tide is rising. I could do no more than wriggle, but I put my own helplessness to work. And it shows him thinking, every part of this netting is stuck to me, even to my utility belt. Maybe that can help me. And Batman says, I did the Bat-Tusi on the netting until a certain cap of my utility belt opened and the laser torch fell out. And then he just let it float to him, and he was able to use his finger to turn on the laser torch.
So embarrassing
burn
when your
the
laser
webbing.
Torch falls out.
And get out of there. And then
So
he goes,
embarrassing.
I knew you'd spot that old type bat insignia on his uniform. Having spent the last 5 years in the big house, he didn't know about my new look. And he goes, I wonder this guy, whoever this guy is, I'm going to remember him as the Cowed Crusader.
C-O-W-E-D.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I would have said. Oh, there's that Cowed Crusader.
Yep. And so
is
essentially,
that the entire story?
that's the entire story. Batman or Robin knew it wasn't the real Batman because the real Batman had yellow around his bat in the center
I thought
of
at
the
first
chest.
that it wasn't a suit of armor. I thought he threw him into some robots.
It does kind of look like
Yeah,
that.
it looks
But
like
you see
robots.
that you can tell that's the evil Batman because he doesn't have the yellow.
Yeah.
Batman has the yellow.
Oh,
So that's how
different.
Robin knew.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that's great.
That'll happen to you in the big house.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think there's no better way than to close things out than to have a look at Deadpool, as I promised, to kind of bring things back in. And the movie is coming out this weekend, so just a quick run through of an issue that I absolutely adore.
Deadpool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
We got a visitor.
oh, we do?
Somebody coming in the door. Yeah. Keep going.
Okay.
We got
Sorry.
Deadpool. Let's go.
Yeah. So, what we have here
If
is...
Pete can't stop us, no one can.
That's fine. I wanted to cover at least my favorite Deadpool comic that we covered. It's a bit different before we actually get into Deadpool and Wolverine this weekend, which will be a different version of Deadpool.
Right.
Jerry Duggan, the artist on this, it's a very good story, and you'll see once we get into it, and a different version of Deadpool than we usually get. Essentially, we
It's
start
like a
off...
touching version of Deadpool?
It is.
Really? Okay.
It is.
All right, cool.
In a Deadpool kind of way. You'll see.
Okay. All right.
So, Deadpool number 20, this is back in 2016, I believe is when this rant happened.
Sure.
So we're open to a very scary situation of a girl standing on the edge of a tower, looking like she's
Don't want anybody to
obviously
jump.
about
No.
to jump.
Yeah.
Where we
froggy.
get, do you remember from Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe, our yellow speech bubbles?
Yes.
That's our Deadpool.
Yes.
So Deadpool just yells out at her.
That's Deadpool talking to Deadpool.
Yeah. Well, no, it was Deadpool
Deadpool
talking in general. Every time
Actually
it's yellow,
talking.
he has yellow speech
okay.
bubbles.
All right, I got you.
That's
Gotcha,
all.
gotcha.
But he just yells at her not to jump. And she looks back and he's like, please, like, not here. Parker Industries is like down a few more blocks. Like, that's the type of building that's meant for something like this.
Yeah.
Like, if you do anything here, like, he's just like, if you do anything here, where's it at? That sort of address is built for this. Like, my place isn't. And he's like, honestly, like, having this place here, seeing a lot of tragedy already. Like, look, like, Ultron took out a huge chunk of the building here.
Sure.
Like, you're just kind of like, I hate to say it, like splattered guts everywhere. It's just not going to do anything great for this place.
Yeah.
It doesn't need your wandering soul. That's what it doesn't need your wandering soul, like ghosting it here too. So he's like, I'm sure like a real hero would have something profound to say and to tell you that, but to help you feel better and about all of this, but I'm all you got, unfortunately. So that's all you got here. And she just kind of sits there and she's just kind of hesitant to put, and he goes, I'm Deadpool, watch your, and she tells him like, don't. And he's like, don't what? She's like, don't pretend that you care. And he's like, well, first of all, you're being presumptive to think that I've even decided to care yet. Like, give me a bit before we even get there. I just asked your name. Like, what is it? Is it a boy, girl, money? Did you marry a succubus? And she's like trying to like run off and ruin your life. And she tells him like, are you trying to like make me jump? And he's like, no, I would never do that. Although people tell me that I'm kind of like really good at making you want to, in a sense. Like, he's playing it up in typical Deadpool fashion.
Sure.
And she starts to like obviously tear up, and he notices it, and he goes, again, Parker Industries, right over there. And she goes, I hate you.
Peter Parker?
Goes, all right. Then I think maybe that's a sign that we're doing something good. Huh?
Peter Parker?
No, she tells... Yeah,
no, I'm
Parker,
saying Parker
Parker
Industries.
Industries, Peter Parker,
okay.
yeah.
All right.
And she yells like, I hate you. And he goes, all right, I think that's a sign that maybe we're doing something good here.
Yeah.
And he's like, all I'll tell you is I'll make you an offer. You know, if you're determined to like kind of go through all this, you can go ahead and do that. But what about we do some other things first just to see, like, give me the night.
Sure.
And he goes, have you ever seen Hamilton? And she goes,
The
what,
musical?
are you, a maniac? Like, it costs like millions of dollars. Like, how are we going to get tickets? What do you mean? And he's like, don't worry. I know a way to get tickets. And then it cuts to them at the theater, and you see two old people in the balcony knocked out. And she goes, I can't believe that this is what you meant by coming. And he's like, she goes, are they okay? He's like, I said I knew people who had tickets. I didn't say they were going to willingly give them to us.
Yeah.
She's like, plus, like, these are like, you know, manslaughtering slumlords here. Like, don't worry about them. They're not dead. Like, one of them like mutters out Rosebud. Like, you see that they're still alive.
Yeah, gotcha.
And she goes, just shut up. And so they sit there and they watch the show. And after it's done, he's like, see, I had a blast. Who knew the founding fathers were so cool? And he goes, where to next now? As he opens up the cab door. And she goes, Parker Industries observation deck. And he goes, ha, you made a joke. Like, yes, like we're doing this, you know.
Yeah.
Like we're making jokes. And she goes, did I take a header like off of your building already and we're stuck in hell now? And he's like, well, no, come to think about it. Like, I just watched a musical and there aren't like 72 virgins around me here now. So maybe, no, I think this is still the real world. Like, he's just sitting there telling her. And he's like, let's cut the shit. Are your problems something that requires violence? And she goes, I don't know, but like, I know what you're going to tell me. Violence is never the answer. And he goes, no, you're terrible at guessing what people would say. Violence is always, or violence solves everything. That's what she said. Violence doesn't solve anything. He goes, violence solves everything if you're good at it. And he pulls out these letters from his pouch and he tells her, like, I have all these letters that I take from the Avengers. It's kind of like the little, like, lesser known crime things. Like, they have like big scale things to worry about. When I have like small time to do, I like to just pull these out and go take one out. Why don't you come and help me with one of these? And he's like, we make the rounds. And she's like, why don't you just leave me alone? And she goes, unless you're kidnapping me. And he's like, no, how dare you? I only kidnap for money. All you're going to do is just promise to do exactly what I say, and then I'll let you go. And she goes, yeah, that still kind of sounds like kidnapping.
A little bit.
And he's like, what's your name? And she goes, Danielle. And he's like, thank God. I thought you were going to be a Robin. And which she's like making him his sidekick as he like goes through. Well, they show up at this apartment, and he tells them, like, okay, Danielle, I'm going to teach you how to breach the door for of a real tyrant. And he tells him about this guy, like he's this, you know, he's been using or robbing his elderly neighbors to pay off his drug habit. So he goes, what you do? And he knocks, and he goes, hola, sexy maids. And he goes, you wait until you see darkness around the peephole, and then you kick the hell out of it. And he goes, knock, knock. And realized there was an old woman behind the door. And he goes, Danielle goes, he lives with his mom. And he goes, well, to be fair, none of the notes mention that.
Sure.
So how was I supposed to know?
Yeah.
So he gets into a fight with the actual bad guy there.
Big guy.
And he ends up knocking the bad guy out, like with the punch there. And he goes, all right, now you try. And so Danielle goes over and just like kind of lightly like kicks him in the butt, and Deadpool just boos her.
Yeah.
It's like, boo, Danielle, boo. And she's like, don't boo me. And he's just, never mind, just texting a friend. And he's just off in the corner just texting, like not even paying attention.
Sure.
So then after that, they kind of take some of the stuff that he robbed and they bring it out down to the front of the apartment for people to get their stuff back.
Looks like a lot of VCRs.
And she goes, okay, see, wasn't that a great warm-up? And she goes, if you say so, good luck, bye. And she's like, no, we're not done yet. The main course is up next. A real bunch of sweethearts are hacking cloud storages and ransoming back the data. Even worse, any nudes that they find, they're uploading to the revenge porn site.
Ooh.
She goes, she goes, we won't have to pull our punches here on these next guys. And she's like, whatever. And she just like comes around to him. Or they walk around the corner like she's following him still. Mm-hmm. So we see him, he goes, I'm not the best at the tech stuff, but these guys were easy to find with the gear that the Avengers use. And then we get a buongiorno, sexy maids at the door again. And Danielle goes, are you telling me that always works? And he goes, every time. Now, when the slit opens, press the clicker. And so you see the slit open and it goes, well, hello, who the hell are you? And then a blast that breaks off. And we see the two of them walk in and she's like, whoa. And he's like, see, I told you breaching charges are awesome. And then Deadpool and the two, like he beats up the bad guys that are there. Then some of the tech
cracks his arm in half.
He cracks his arm in half. And he's like, then some of the tech guys that were there working are like, we won't go to jail. And he's like, I never said that any of you were. And so they come in and they start like trying to attack. Yeah, with like, anything they can grab. Yeah. And there's just a full-on fight. And Danielle is able to like grab a bat and she swings and hits one of the guys with it. And she's able to kind of let out some aggression, just beating up some of the computer equipment that's there and just hanging around her.
She's kind of a badass.
Yeah, and she's just sitting there. She has that moment. She just drops the bat and she's like, she's fine.
Yeah.
And then as we sit there, she goes, did we just steal a motorcycle? And he goes, I don't know. Did we? We're doing what your heart tells you to do. Come on. You had fun tonight, right? And then he tells him, like, aren't you glad that you picked my dress to fall off now? And she's like, yeah, I think it was pretty, I think you had a pretty good handle on things after all. And they sit there and they pull up and she goes, all right, you can let me off anywhere. And that's when Deadpool tells her that he can't. And we find out, like, the texting he's been doing the whole time has been the hospital.
Oh, wow.
So, and she tells him, like, you promised to let me go.
Yeah.
Huh?
The merc with a heart.
Exactly. Yeah. She's like, you promised to let me go. And he's like, yeah, I did. And that's where he explains, like, he's been texting him the whole time.
Yeah, sure.
And she's like, what if I don't want to go inside? Like, will you make me?
Yeah.
Excuse me. And he tells her that, he's not, like, all they got to do is, like, all she has to do is make the choice herself.
Yeah, sure.
All of that. But he's like, I wasn't the guy to do all this.
Yeah.
Get emotional. It's stupid.
Yeah, that's all right.
But he's like, I wasn't the guy to do all this. Like, I knew that.
Yeah.
Like, essentially, I knew some people who had. So, it's nice to see.
That's actually kind of
cool,
cool, honestly.
It is through the whole thing.
Me not knowing a ton about Deadpool other than the movies, this is kind of cool.
It is, but you have to think of the way, like, I read Jerry Duggan. It's at the end of this, and I thought it was really cool. And so he actually, like, goes in there with her, and he, like, leaves her there.
Yeah.
And I love the way it ends, because he's, like, walking out, and he's, like, he sighs, and he's like, unkilling somebody is so much harder than what we, like, usually do.
Yeah.
And as he walks out, he goes, of course, the moment she walks out of life, I think of the perfect advice. And he tells her, like, you got to remember that no matter how bad things get, that life is fluid. And you see him, like, exit out of the emergency room, and you hear a splut, like he stepped in something.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, there's always the chance that something great is waiting right around the next corner.
Yeah.
You just have to find a way to keep rounding the corners.
And he stepped in.
He did.
Gum? Dog shit?
I think so. But still, it's just, you got to find a way.
Gummy dog shit.
Exactly. You got to find a way to just keep rounding the corners.
That was actually pretty cool.
It was. I liked at the end here in the comic, there is a Jerry Duggan who wrote it, has a really great point of, like, he was always thinking about, like, stories he wanted to do.
Yeah.
And he brought it up, like, he thought that I laughed at the thought of Deadpool confronted with a suicidal character. Yeah. Like, I spent the last few years trying to do Unexpected with Wade, but even I had to admit that that's a poor character.
Sure.
Probably wasn't going to make it immediately, and, like, immediately discredit the idea of, like, oh, somebody dealing with that with Deadpool.
Yeah.
Like, how would you do that? But story's fantastic, and
it's
I really
cool.
Like it.
Yeah,
because it fits in
like
with him still.
Because it's not like, on tonight on a very special episode of Webster. Yeah. It's not like that. It's not really hitting you in the face.
No, it's not. Yeah. But it's the Deadpool way of doing it. Yeah. That's really great.
It's cool.
Again, I kind of glossed over it. Please go check it out. It's a fantastic issue. Yeah. And also, a great way to cap.
Also, just if you know somebody who's having those issues, help them.
That's very true.
Find
There's nothing wrong with reaching out and talking to people.
Yeah.
Never. Just to check in.
This was cool. Four
little stories in
comics.
one. Yeah. I mean, shorter stories.
Good job.
Another one we go over. I have no clue what we're going to do next week. It'll be probably something silly and ridiculous.
Sure.
Because that's what works for us. But that is this week's episode.
Always great, my man.
I do. As always, thank you guys for taking the time out to listen and watch in this case. Make sure to check out the Rogue Media Network family of podcasts.
RogueMediaNetwork.com.
And until next time, stay safe, everybody.
Golly God.
Frozen heroes. Gonna tell you about frozen heroes. Gonna tell you about.
This has been a Rogue Media Network production.